Name, Abukhano Bindley. Destination, North America. Reason, slave. I was taken all over the east coast of Africa before I was finally purchased at a fair by a black trader. I was gathered with many others of my kind, men, women, and children, on our voyage to the ship we would board and travel on. After a few days, I got off the little boat and waited on line to get onto the bigger boat. I waited with tons of others I saw on my earlier voyage. "Hey, you! Get over here!" A tall white man shouted and pointed at me. I walked over to this man hesitantly, not knowing what was going to happen. I arrived into a booth where only men stood, and I was stripped naked and quickly examined. He looked at my eyes, legs, teeth, and checked to see if I was diseased. From what I saw, if I didn't pass this examination, I would be sent back, but instead I passed and headed for the ship to board. The men and women were separated by tall boards, and just after stepping foot on the ship, I was cuffed on my wrists and riveted on my ankles, and I was linked to a strange man by a chain that connected to the cuffs and rivets. At the time, it seemed like I would be with that man for the rest of the journey. My partner and I were put underneath the main deck where everyone else was. It was hot, smelly, and loud down there. We were placed so close to the rest of the people that there was no room to move around at all. The only posture possible for me was on my side, which got to be very uncomfortable. There easily was 500 of us down there. As the voyage went on, many others got very sick. The numbers decreased daily. The cause of death? Seasickness and the lack of fresh air when storms occurred, and the shipmates had to shut the airports, which was the only source of fresh air for us, therefore suffocating us. A lot of the white men came down periodically, searching for the deceased and throwing them overboard. Early in the morning, we would be sent to the main deck for our irons to be looked at. To make sure none of us had tried to escape, about 50 or 60 men were connected with one chain. And sometimes after examination, they would let us stay on deck for most of the day until late afternoon, when we were then sent back down to the heat zone. As for our meals, we had two a day, one being boiled rice or cornmeal and stewed yams. Some raw meat would be added to upkeep our health. The second meal, served later in the day, we were given beans with red peppers. Water was rationed. My partner once absolutely refused to eat because he didn't feel well, and so he was roped down and whipped severely. Other times, people who refused had to swallow burning hot coals. As part of our daily exercise to maintain health, we were forced to dance. If we were not constantly moving, then we were whipped. We also sang. I remember once when we were sitting on the deck on a nice day, and then suddenly war broke out. Some slaves tried to beat the crew with whatever they could find at the time, but the crew eventually took dominance, shooting and throwing overboard any participants. These became daily routines for us until after a couple months we finally reached Virginia. We were told we were to work here. We docked, and then planters and merchants immediately boarded the ship. We were separated into groups and examined again. Families would often be separated at the slave market where plantation owners would buy us. I was purchased by Roger Smaling on the slave podium, and then I was taken to his plantation along with other slaves he bought. When we got to the plantation in the early afternoon, I was given clothes and our master put us straight to work. I was assigned to work out in the tobacco fields from sunrise to sunset every day. I was given a peck of corn weekly to eat, so I learned to ration, and I made a couple of friends on the field, but talked to them rarely since I would be whipped if caught slacking on the job. My sleeping quarters were fairly decent, but I slept much better there than on the ship. Since I got here 2 years ago, life has been hard. I've been whipped at least 75 times and worked over 8,000 hours. Who knows when this will end, hopefully soon, because I can't stand this slavery anymore, and I just want to go home.